Chapter 13. Kate Stevens. The flow of blood from Kate's lip had lessened to a trickle, but she still tasted it in her mouth. She spat onto the floor of the van to lessen the coppery taste before it turned her stomach. No sense throwing up her last meal. Kate needed to maintain her strength. Why were these people trying to kill her? What had she done? Nothing made any sense to her. James lay curled up in a fetal position, crying and mumbling nonsense. He had proclaimed himself a stalwart for God, but he withered under the first signs of persecution. Maybe James wasn't the man she thought. Kate had loved him, wanting to spend their lives together. But did she even know him? A man without character when the going got tough. Escape would be up to her. Vinny got iced back at the loading dock, taking a bullet through his head, but James' captor made it into the back of the van as they escaped. The pool of blood under the thug had grown, but stopped expanding. He now rested like the dead after joining their ranks. No coming back from his injuries. Kate wouldn't cry over the man's death or the death of her kidnappers. They all deserved to die a painful death. She'd love to grab his gun if she freed her bound hands. With them secured behind her back, the pistol wouldn't even help if she reached it. Moving your bound arms from behind you to in front of you looks so easy in the movies, but not in real life. The boss rode in the front passenger seat of the van. He cursed those who attacked him at the loading dock, swearing constantly as he spoke. Words that would make a sailor blush, as the old saying went. Kate listened to his tirade, trying to find an advantage to aid her escape. They had taken him to an abandoned warehouse just outside of the local dockyard. There, they planned on regrouping and renewing their attack on Sergey's gang. This man possessed a deep hatred for Sergey, bordering on insanity. From his words, Kate couldn't figure out what part she played in this mess. She meant nothing to either man. An unnamed driver drove without saying a word. Kate wondered if he remained silent because he didn't want to become the target of the boss's outrage, or if he was mute. She leaned toward the former, but the latter made a better story. After a hasty getaway, the van had fallen into a steady pace. Secretly, Kate wished a cop had pulled him over, rescuing her, but she feared for the imaginary officer's life. These men killed in broad daylight without remorse, so what would stop them from taking another life, even the life of a police officer? Kate couldn't see a clock, estimating they had driven for half an hour. She thought the pier might be in New Haven, since they had an active shipping port, but she had no answers, only questions. Did they plan on loading her onto a boat? She couldn't think of a logical reason why they would. Connecticut had many women younger and prettier than her, so she couldn't imagine they had human trafficking on their minds. It felt more and more like some writer plunged her into their thriller without her permission. The van slowed, turning onto a rough surface. After a short drive across the bumps, the van squealed to a stop. After another outburst of profanity, the boss jumped out of the van, slamming the door behind him. The silent driver followed the lead of the boss. After a few seconds, the back doors opened, revealing the boss, the driver, and a dozen armed men. Rough hands grabbed Kate, dragging her from the back of the vehicle without warning. She saw another man pulling the quivering and blubbering James behind her. "Dispose of this van and the body in the usual place. Bring these two inside so I can figure out their worth and how to leverage them." The boss spoke to a group of rough-looking men. They dragged Kate inside the neglected building. This time, she would try to keep her legs underneath her. Face-planting once had been one time too many. Her bruised upper lip still throbbed even after the bleeding stopped. She must look horrible. A shove from behind propelled her inside the abandoned warehouse. The building looked no better inside than it had from the outside. Broken windows had allowed bats, birds, and other creeping wildlife into the structure. They covered the floors with a foul-smelling film of liquefied excrement. Rough hands manhandled her to the door in the far corner of the large open room. Kate tried to find an escape, but she saw nowhere to run. Even if she attempted to flee, she wouldn't make it far with all these armed men surrounding her. They reached the door, and the brute opened it, shoving her inside. Before the door slammed shut, Kate saw the men tying James to a chair in the center of the large room. The lock clicked from the other side of the door. Even though she expected it to be hopeless, she turned her back to the door, trying the knob with her bound hands. It didn't open. The room held a dirty desk and chair, along with a bookshelf collapsing under the weight of a bunch of musty-smelling tomes. Kate could see the burglar bars behind the dirty window blocking any attempt to escape. Even if the bars weren't there, she wouldn't have been able to climb through with her hands tied behind her back. Who would save her now? No one knew where these men had taken her. Kate paced the small room for what felt like hours. The light dimmed outside of the dirt-smeared window. She heard words being spoken in the main room and thought she heard James crying, but no one came from her. After some time, Kate sat in the chair, trying to conserve her energy. She needed to maintain her stamina so she could run when the time came. Adrenaline faded, along with the fear as she felt forgotten, locked inside the office. It had been hours since she last ate, and her weakness caused her to drift off to sleep. The door slammed against the wall, waking Kate from her slumber. She jumped from the start. A large man advanced on Kate as he stood next to the filthy office chair. He crossed the room in 2 steps, grabbing a handful of her hair, yanking her toward the door. A glow of light permeated the dirty film covering the single window. Even being uncomfortable, she had slept through the night without being disturbed. Her back and neck felt as if she slept for a week in that chair. Large hands moved from her hair to Kate's back, shoving her through the doorway. Her feet tangled, and she slid face first through the putrid black mess on the floor. Blood and black goo filled her mouth. Before she could right herself, the man lifted her back to her feet, using her hair as a handle. Kate gasped for air. The smell and the blow to her chest from the fall had taken her breath away. He dragged her across the room to where the heavy-set man stood, along with a huge, muscular man standing in front of James. Tied to the chair, James looked nothing like himself anymore. Blood, bruises, split lips, and broken nose made him look like a boxer who lost their match. She couldn't imagine the beating these men had given him. The big man forced Kate to her knees in front of his chair. "Okay, Mr. Thomas, let's try this again. Tony couldn't make you talk, but now how about this nice young lady? Give me the truth or she dies." The heavy-set man pressed a pistol to Kate's forehead. Cold metal sent shiver down her spine. She'd die this way, not knowing why. James sat in the chair, sobbing, but the fat man scowled, tapping his foot on the filthy floor. "I'm going to count to 3, and then I'm going to pull the trigger. 1, 2. Okay. James spat blood on the floor after speaking. His voice didn't sound like the voice Kate knew anymore. "It's all me. She had nothing to do with this. Please, let her go. I'll do everything." His breath whistled through the mush his nose had become. Kate didn't understand his words. "I'm listening. If you tell me the truth, then I won't harm her." "I laundered Sergey's money. My church. It's a front. It's a fraud. I'm a fraud." Kate couldn't believe his words. Pastor James Thomas, the man she loved, was a common criminal. He endangered her life by tangling himself with organized crime. What happened to being a man of God? She felt the tears threatening to flow, but Kate pushed them down. Why show weakness in front of these evil men? The man laughed, withdrawing the gun from her forehead. Now that he knew the truth, maybe he would let Kate go. She could return to her life and forget this mess. A life without James. Finally, the truth. You're the asset, and she is just in the wrong place at the wrong time. A holy man and a money launderer. You couldn't write a better script. What do you think, Tony? He spoke to the muscular man standing over James with bruised fists. The man smiled, punching James straight in his face. His neck snapped back with a loud crack before he slumped forward as far as the bonds allowed. "Load him into the van. I'll take 3 men with me. I'll use him to get Sergey out of hiding. Once I'm gone, you can dispose of the woman. We got no need for her. Make sure no one finds the body. Make sure I'm gone first. No need for her blood to stain my hands." "Yes, boss." Tony, the big man, spoke, possessing the voice of a tenor. He cut the bonds, holding James to the chair, lifting him to his feet as if he weighed nothing. Before James could move, Tony spun him around, tying his arms behind his back with zip ties. James somehow remained conscious, even after the beating he took at Tony's beefy paws. The brute who manhandled Kate left her on the floor, accompanying the fat man. "Tony, and a third man out of the building. They pushed James in front of them. She expected to hear a gunshot ending her life, kneeling on this disgusting floor. A man she hadn't seen before crept from the shadows, jerking Kate to her feet. He shoved her in the opposite direction, deeper into the gloom of the abandoned building. She shuffled her feet, prolonging her life, avoiding the inevitable. Maybe she'd find a way to escape. 2 more men closed in on her, surrounding her as they led her to her doom. She saw no way to overpower 3 armed men with their arms still tied behind her back. Best to just accept the end with dignity. Kate's shoulders drooped and her eyes fell to the floor, knowing she had walked her last mile. They led her to the far side of the open area. The sign next to the door read Nurse. She saw the irony of being killed in a room previously used for healing. One of the nameless men opened the door, shoving her into the dark room. "Why did you bring her over here, Matt?" "Doesn't it seem like a waste to just kill a woman like this? We can tie her down to the bed in there, and we can have a go at her first. The boss will never know, and we'll get a little fun out of it." "You know, I already pissed my pants because you people kept me tied up for so long," Kate said. "Don't worry. You won't be needing those pants any longer." Matt had cut her hands free, and she tried to fight back. 3 men overwhelmed her in her weakened state. They forced her down onto the small cot, tying her arms to opposite sides of the bed. Kate kicked wildly with her legs, catching the man in the jaw, but they laughed, tying her legs to the bed. She screamed, and one of them slapped her across the face. "You should be grateful that you're going to get a little pleasure before you die." Kate closed her eyes tight, not wanting to see what happened next. She wished they would just shoot her, getting it over with. Instead, Kate knew she would feel the icy blade slicing off her pants before they had her way with her. Before they could even touch her, the door to the office burst open. She heard incomprehensible screams coming from the 3 thugs. Then 3 thumps sounded before a different man spoke. "You, Kate?" The deep voice resonated. His words came out as a question in broken English. Kate opened her eyes as things came into focus. She found 2 giants standing before her. One held a large stick and the other a bloody sword. She didn't know what to make of them, but she nodded. "Okay, cool. I cut you free. No panic. You safe." The giant wiped the blood off his sword on one of the dead men before cutting Kate's bonds. She sat up, rubbing the red marks on her wrist. "You walk?" Another question, not grammatically correct. "Yes, I can walk." "Cool. Mikado, you help. I call boss. We get her to car, then safety." The larger of the 2 giants extended his hand, helping Kate to her feet. He guided her through the door toward the exit. She noticed a crossbow strapped across his back. It seemed 2 men from a fantasy novel had saved her life. When they reached the fresh air outside the building, Kate saw dead men scattered across the ground. Many had arrows piercing their bodies. She didn't know who these men were that saved her, but they were a force of nature. "Thank you for saving me." Her guide smiled, grunting in acknowledgement. As they reached the road, a Suburban raced up to them. Neither man looked alarmed, so Kate guessed the vehicle had accompanied them. The gentle giant opened the door for Kate, letting her in. "Wow, you look like crap." "Sorry, I shouldn't have said that. Get in, guys. The boss sent me directions for a rendezvous point. Then my day is done. Looks like you guys really cleaned up here. Try not to make a mess inside my car." "Okay, cool." The driver laughed before putting the vehicle into gear. He drove away from the dead, littered battlefield, an abandoned building that almost became Kate's grave.